Now let's get to my favorite subject, folks. Babyface heel. For those who may not know what babyface heel means in wrestling terminology, babyface means a good guy. Heel is a bad guy. A tweener is someone in between babyface or heel. So I come up with a list of athletes or celebrities, and me and the panel, we're gonna decide whether they are babyface, heel, or tweener. Now the first one is a celebrity, musician, Dr. Dre. I'm going to say
Mm.
tweener. I can't call him a baby face. Unfortunately, Champ BRF, we all know the incidents with him and D Barnes and also with Michelle. So, on a serious note, those are some very horrific situations in which Dre has opened and acknowledged. But I will say tweener, or you can lean towards babyface because of his impact with music, particularly with NWA, obviously with the business side of rap, producing, obviously him working with a lot of artists, Snoop, Eminem, 50 Cent, other artists, his genius, and then later in his career, how he was able to change his life. I mean, look how he is physically at what is he now, 60 years old, and taking tremendous care of himself. And then of course the Chronic 2001 album, my favorite song from him, The Message, tribute to his little brother Tyree. Hearing that side from Dr. Dre, just listening to him, just watching the episode on VH1's Behind the Music. If y'all want to watch great documentaries, just man, go watch VH1's Behind the Music, especially with Jim Forbes, with how the way he narrates. I mean, I watched the Dr. Dre one, the Snoop Dogg one, the Boys to Men one, the Bobby Brown one. Just watch VH1's Behind the Music as far as Jim Forbes narration and listening to the other people when they're discussing these types of things. Visual learning is a hell of a lot of fun. So, Dre, I say tweener. I lean towards tweener. And then, of course, him working with Busta Rhymes back in when Busta Rhymes joined Shady Aftermath. So I lean towards tweener with Dr. Dre.
Tweener. I gotta say tweener simply because of the controversies that happened. Plus, look, you have to acknowledge this. When death row first started, when gangster rap first started, it wasn't necessarily popular. It wasn't necessarily popular. You had a lot of people like, the great Dolores Tucker, and they was, you
Not
know,
just Dolores Tucker, Dionne Warwick.
Dionne Warwick. Yeah, that was a
They showed up 10 minutes early at her house.
I mean, that's Dionne Warwick. I mean, I'm just being real. It's kind of like, look, I'm just gonna be real. It's kind of like one of our grandmas saying, "Hey, I want y'all at my house at at 1 o'clock. We gonna show up at 12:30. We gonna show up at 12:30. Hey man, y'all here right? So it's kind of like showing up at one of your grandmas or your great aunt's house. But yeah, even Dionne Warwick has some. It wasn't popular back then, and it affected a lot of generations because a lot of cats can't just take gangster rap as entertainment. They got to live by it. It's probably a bad analogy, but I will say it. Gangster rap for the previous generation is kind of like Hot Girl Summer is for this generation. A lot of bad influence.
Lord.
No, I'm just
Woo!
being serious.
I
I
know you
mean,
being serious,
gangster
but
rap.
not just
If you really look at gangster rap and how it affected a lot of youth back then, especially a lot of guys, it had the same effect that a lot of the rap that we have nowadays, as far as the ladies are concerned. It's equivalent to that, except watered down just a little bit, but it's equivalent to it. It's a lot of influence, and what really is crazy about it, you would have think it affects like the youth. It's like 20-year-olds, guys like girls like that. You see girls like my age doing that shit. That shit be crazy. Like I'm gonna go have a hot girl summer. All right. Well, I'm
actually
like we grown, but do your thing, Walter.
my mom is the same way, champ.
Huh?
My mom's the same way.
Uh, well, that's mama. But
I mean, I have to like it.
that, that's just mama. That's mama. But mom. Look, mom done raised her kids, and you mama got to have a life too. But I'm talking about folks who live and die by that shit. That see them on the internet. Got their cash app in the bio and shit like that. You see that shit all the time. But uh, simply because gangster rap would, regardless of how good it sound, and it sounded damn good, it had an effect on the youth. And yeah, during that time, especially during the 90s and stuff like that, it had its effect. Now, granted, it was a lot of it wasn't negative like the media portrayed it. Because the thing is, I'll make this analogy about gangster rap. Let's just suppose we just start rapping about the 6 o'clock news. Would it be considered gangster rap then?
Fair enough.
So, but I'll say the tweener because of the negative and the positive that gangster rap had. Because in reality, it was reality rap, but a lot of guys and gals took it and made it into something else, especially with the media. But I'll say a tweener. Dr. Dre did a lot, and let's not forget about the greatest what if story with Dr. Dre, and that's DOC.
Yes. You mentioned
DOC,
that on my pod previously.
I think DOC was better than every protege that he ever had. Because the thing is, when you are able to make an entire album with that mean wordplay and those rhymes, that you don't curse one time until the last record on your album, and that is the NWA Grand Finale. That is something to behold. He didn't curse not one time throughout that entire album until he got to the last record. But Dre did a lot for rap, man. The joint venture, without the joint venture, as far as rappers making money, as far as
And Beats by Dre.
and Beats by Dre, man. Look, I had a pair of those headphones. I still got them damn headphones. I can't find them nowhere. But
I'll see what I can do for you for Christmas.
but nah, I'm good. I can't find them nowhere right about now. I know somebody that came on my house and hit them. I know who you is, but I know you that came over here and hit them. But I know you came over here and hit them. And when I find them, I'm gonna come get you. But yeah, I'm gonna come get you. But yeah, Beats by Dre. Not to mention, like I said, man, Death Row had a positive impact because it showed you what you can do. Death Row or Aftermath was not a big company. They were not a major company. They were not. They were not like Motown. They were not like Universal. They were not like Def Jam. They were a small company that put out 6 LPs and all of them went triple platinum. Same with Aftermath. So his impact, look, he said it best. When your album sales weren't doing too good, who's the doc they told you to go see?
Right.
When your album said, look, there's only 3 producers. When they produce your album from top to bottom, you got a hit on your hands. Dr. Dre, Swiss Beats, and Timberland. Those guys, if they produce your album from top to bottom, you are at least about to go triple platinum. So Dr. Dre is a tweener, man, because of the influence that he had, man, both negative and positive. Because, like I said, and it wasn't him with the influence. I will say this, it was guys and gals who took gangster rap for what they thought it meant, and rather than what it really was. Gangster rap was really reality rap. It was really bringing attention to a lot of things going on in the local neighborhoods, except for a lot of people took that and kind of ran with it with their own narrative, as well as the media. But you know, for what he did for hip hop, all the good music that he put out, and like I said, one of the few guys that was able to do a joint venture not once but twice, was able to create Death Row. Not only that, go back. This guy literally built 3 record companies. Built Ruthless. Well, no, 4. Because remember, he was with Lonzo Williams before he went to Ruthless. So, Crew Cut Records, he built that because of how he was able to produce that. Ruthless, he built Ruthless. Built Death Row. Then Aftermath.
Death Row, him and Suge. Although he wasn't concerned with how the way Suge handled business.
I mean, shit. If I look, I'm gonna just be real, bro. If you can get me out of contracts and get me out of
Well,
shit,
he did. I mean, he
I don't care
wanted
how
to
you
give.
handle it. Go ahead and do your thing. So,
Although it was kind of crazy what we heard about with Suge and Easy E, but
yeah,
hey, Dre looked at it from the standpoint he got the releases. Let's move on and let's build something. And eventually they did with Death Row.
interesting fact about Death Row. It was originally supposed to be Funky Enough Records because originally it was Suge and the DOC's label. Dre came in later.
Yep.
Yeah, it was supposed to be Funky Enough Records, but then everything kind of went into another direction. And originally, Doc, the DOC, was a partner in Death Row. It was Suge, Doc, Dick Griffey, God rest his soul, and then Dre. They were the original partners in Death Row. And then Harrio, Mr. Harrio, came in and did a lot of things from there. Then it just went from there. But yeah, that it was originally supposed to be Funky Enough Records. Had he not lost his voice, then that would have been a whole nother ball game. But Dre is a tweener simply because certain controversies. Like I said, a
As I
lot of people
mentioned.
took, yeah, not to mention the DV situation, which once you get into those type of situations, nobody's ever gonna forget that, and rightfully so. And but to his credit, though, look, to his credit, when you own up to something that you did wrong and don't run from it and try to deflect blame and do all that other nonsense, there's something to be said about that. When you own up to your mistakes, admit that you did it, and admit that you just was a messed up human being and that you've changed and that God got his hands around you, then guess what? There's something to behold about that situation. A lot of people, especially these days when during the internet age when everybody want to be right, a lot of people will sit around here use narcissists and doing all that. That no. It takes a real good person, not just man, not just man, not just woman, a real good person to say, "Hey, what I did was wrong. I messed up. I shouldn't have did that. I was dead ass wrong for doing that. I shouldn't have did that." And I look back on it and I feel embarrassed. And you not getting in any more trouble, and nobody ever hears anything about that certain thing about you anymore. Like anymore, that's something to be said about that. And that goes to show you that you've made amends and you have learned your lesson.
And also with the Chronic 2000 Chronic album in 1992. Wasn't it the first ever gangster rap album to go commercial?
Yes. Funny thing about that album, I'm a walking dictionary. Uh, Snoop did
Walking
not want.
Dictionary, you a thesaurus, an encyclopedia.
Snoop did not. The Snoop did not want to be on the cover of Rolling Stones. He did not want to be on the cover of Rolling Stone. He was pissed that he was on the cover of Rolling Stone. He said what he was in Jimmy. He said himself. He said I was in Jimmy Iv's. He said I don't give a blank about the Rolling Stone. I want to be on the cover of the Source. What are you doing? Like the Source is hip hop, and Jimmy Iovine had to convince him. Like no, 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 no. Trust me, you being on the cover of the Rolling Stone is going to take off. And yeah, that to his credit. And look, me being the guy who I am, I wouldn't have blamed Snoop back then, especially because the Source back then, I will say
That was
back in the
big. That was
90s,
huge back in them days.
yeah, that was the
Yes,
hip
it
hop
was.
Bible. That was the hip hop Bible. So yeah, I mean, he did not want to be on the cover of Rolling Stones, so he wanted to be on the cover of the Source, which you know,
But Jimmy
rightfully so. Like
Iovine
I said,
fortunately talked him out of it and said, "Nah, nah, nah. Trust me, you can cross over." And Snoop, to his credit, at least he was willing to do it. But hey, it benefited him.
yes, it did, man. And shout out to the Source, shout out to Vibe, shout out to a lot of Word Up, and all those magazines that brought hip hop to life, along with hip hop, the hip hop voices. Because without the magazines, I doubt hip hop would have survived. Man, it was so fun back then to read the Source, to go look at the cover of the Source and see who got five mics and man, that was the day. That was the golden age of hip hop right there. But man, Dr. Dre is a tweener, and like I said, when you're man enough and personal enough to own up to your mistakes and say what I did was wrong, then that says something about you as a human being. Especially if you don't hear about. It's one thing when you say I was wrong and we keep hearing about it. You keep doing stupid crap, but when you own up to it and say I was wrong and we don't ever hear anything about like that anymore, there's something to be said about that. But big ups to Dr. Dre. You made my childhood great, man. I remember driving down the street in my dad's Toyota on the passenger side with my dad listening to the Chronic album. That was one of the best albums in hip hop history.
Hey man, greatest apology is change behavior.
Yes, indeed.
BRF.
Yeah, yeah. With Dr. Dre, I gotta go 22. I mean, yeah, like allegations are never a good look for an entertainer, for a celebrity of that nature. So yeah, definitely knocks it down a peg or so. But let me tell you something. It's crazy when the only two studio albums you made, well, with the first two studio albums you made, pretty much the only two studio albums you made are two of the best albums in the history of hip hop. When you think about the Chronic and you think about 2001,
Mm-hmm.
like just that just shows how in tune you are with the game, and then this also shows how talented you are as an artist. Because I mean, let's face it, I feel like Dr. Dre, we know him so much for his producing and what he does as far as like creating magic with all these artists that he's had under his wing, whether it was 50, whether it was Game or anybody like that. But to show people that, hey, I can get on that mic and I can do it just as good as anybody. And he's made two of the greatest albums in the history of hip hop. So I mean, that just speaks to how talented Dr. Dre is and how good he's been for so long, and how he's still able to maintain it as being one of the, not only one of the more underrated rappers of all time, but one of the greatest producers in the history of hip hop. So I mean, Dr. Dre just has a lot in terms of a resume, in terms of just reputation, as far as like musically and everything like that. Just he's done a lot for hip hop as far as bringing it out, making it mainstream, making it popular. Being a crossover hit. As far as the Chronic being a crossover, I mean, come on, man, ain't nothing but a G thing. Some of the greatest songs in the history of hip
He
hop came
stops and
came off of that
just
album.
stops and let me ride.
Yeah, I'm telling you, some of the greatest songs in the history of hip hop came off of that album. We'll still rock to this day because of how good that album was. And so, but yeah, like I said, the allegations are never good look, and it does knock him down a peg for me. But I mean, he's still a tweener just because of just it's one of those where it's like, yeah, you knock him down a peg for stuff that he's done, but yeah, he's talked about it, he repenting for what he's done, he's owned up to it, he understands. But yet we can never not we can't forget him as just being one of the pioneers of hip hop and one of the great influences of the game, and how in his 60s still going stronger than ever, and just like the tree, the tree of artists, like the lineage as far as like who he's worked with and who he's brought up is like just it's like a who's who of potential to all-time greats in the game. So I mean, you got to yeah, definitely shout out to Dre. Yeah, but he's a tweener for me, but he's definitely one of the bigger influences hip hop has ever seen.
All right, next one. Kyler Murray.
Next.
I'm leaning towards more heel. I love Kyler. Going back to his days at Oklahoma, winning the Heisman Trophy. I wanted to see Kyler Murray succeed because primarily his size. He's 5'10", really more 5'9", 5'8". And his first 3 years, he was having some success each and every year. You look at the Arizona Cardinals record, they got better and better and better. 2021, I thought that was Kyler's best year of his career, sadly, because the first half of the season, he looked like the runaway favorite for the league MVP. And then he cooled off due to injuries. And then, of course, in the offseason after that embarrassing playoff loss against the Los Angeles Rams, in which he threw 2 interceptions. One of them was an awful pick six, one of the worst pick sixes you've ever seen, throwing an underhand football. And again, another great thing with Kyler, baseball background. He was drafted by the Oakland Athletics, I believe, the ninth overall pick out of the MLB draft. Kyler Murray, number one overall pick. But Kyler, the biggest problem with him has been his attitude. I mean, that study clause, that is a horrendous look that the Arizona Cardinals, the organization you've stuck with for so long, they put an independent study clause in your contract in which you have to study 4 hours outside the job. And you signed on the dotted line, Kyler. And then I brought it up on my pod. I suggested that Kyler should go to Atlanta to be mentored by a guy like Michael Vick. Champ said, nope, if you can't study in a place like Arizona, what makes you think you could study in a place like Atlanta with all them distractions and temptations? To which Kyler, you even responded back and you questioned and you said, you don't know what I do as far as work ethic and preparation. And I asked you a question before you blocked me. Why would the Cardinals put that clause in your contract? If anyone would dare question your work ethic, Kyler, why would the Arizona Cardinals put that clause in your contract? They put that clause in your contract because they know and you didn't do what you were supposed to. Had you done what you were supposed to, they would have never put that clause in your contract. And now you seen the Arizona Cardinals, they're looking to trade you. I think it's best for Kyler to move on and go elsewhere. And you seem more interested in Call of Duty. You seem more interested in playing video games than actually watching film and doing your job. Dwayne Coleman, who watches our show as well as your show, Champ and BRF, he said Kyler Murray is him on the field. He's like it's watching a high school football game or Madden or something. So Kyler, at this point, I lean towards, hate to say it, heel. As an OU fan, heel. Because his career is not panning out the way I imagined. Have there been other issues in Arizona? Yes. But Kyler Murray has not changed life, and he's becoming more of a problem than the distraction. And it certainly doesn't help when teammates have called you out. Patrick Peterson, Kyler Murray don't care about nobody but Kyler Murray. Calvin Beachum, the offensive lineman, he says that Kyler has what it takes. He just needs to grow up a little bit. Larry Fitzgerald Sr., who's in the media, and the father of Larry Fitzgerald, said Kyler is spoiled. If it's coming from the father who works in the media and who is the father of Larry Fitzgerald, class personified, it had to come from Larry Fitzgerald, the son. Heel at this point.
Hill, my thing is this. His style of play really reminds me, BRF, you know this as well. Remember how Michael Vick's style of play was before he really started studying?
Yeah.
And you was really questioning on whether he watched film or not. So
Which he
that's just,
stated he doesn't spend a lot of time watching film.
again, that's your job. Look, there's a lot of stuff that I don't like doing in my spare time. You think I like going around here taking notes like this before podcasts? I can rely on natural ability because I know sports like that. Not to brag, but I'm like that when it comes to sports. But guess what? I still have to take notes and do my research on stuff in order to be efficient at my job. So let's just be very, very honest with you. You have to do stuff when it comes to your job. I have to study. As y'all know, I'm in the technology field. I have to study in order to be good at my job. I have to study every night. PSP, you could attest to this. A lot of times when you text me or call me, I'm doing a project, or I'm studying, or I'm doing something. You have to study in order to be good at your craft. I think that Carl Banks said it best. A lot of guys are committed to their craft, and some are just happy being good. And his style of play right now reminds me a lot of Michael Vick when he was in Atlanta. A lot of natural ability, but you really don't see that one complete season. You really haven't seen that one complete season where he's bringing it all together. Everything is going. You see the maturation process. You don't really see that. It's like, and like I said, a lot of the indictment on him is when you saw Jaden Daniels and how efficiently he ran Cliff Kingsbury offense the first year because he was so cooperative. Everybody was talking about how much Jaden Daniels studies, how he was using the virtual reality uh, videos and stuff like that, how he was training in virtual reality, things of that nature. People was talking about how much he studied and how much time he put in. Wasn't no high of the highs, and then the very next, then the second half of the season, the low of the low because the lead then caught up with you. Once Cliff Kingsbury had a cooperative and coachable quarterback, you saw what the offense could do. And he was a rookie, first year. And not to mention, like I said, it's like you really took the time out your day in order to address PSP.
Again, for the
And
record,
then,
I was wrong for tagging him. I just want to state the record. So
well, not only that, I'm just going to be real. Okay, everybody ain't lying. You responded to PSP. You responded to Patrick Peterson. You responding to everybody, but everybody seeing that you have not changed. Like I said, his play is a lot like Michael Vick when he was in Atlanta. I don't think that coaches come in and coach him hard. I don't think that a lot of coaches is able to coach him hard because of ownership. They're trying to keep him happy because of um, that 9-figure contract. I don't really think that he wants it. I really don't. There's a lot of things that occur during this franchise that he just could. There's been certain times where the San Francisco 49ers and the LA Rams have had down years. That should have been your opportunity to take over and deliver certain things to Arizona. Arizona has been desperately looking for a winner for years. And the only time that you really, really saw that they was able to do it was with two different quarterbacks. They was able to see it with Jim Hart back in the 70s when the first rendition of the Air Coryell offense was there. And and then you saw them with Comrade Dobler and some of the other offensive linemen there, and OJ Anderson back then. And then you was able to see it during the Kurt Warner era. That was the only time you was able to see the Arizona Cardinals really be winners. But they've
and
been
in 2015, although they didn't make the Super Bowl, at least with Carson Palmer, at least they made it to the NFC Championship game that year before they got it.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But they have been craving a long-term winner there. You had a chance in order to change the culture. I'll never forget something that Peyton Manning first said. Two things I'll say. I'll never forget when he had got that $90 million contract. I'll never forget what he said. He said, "What are you going to do with that contract?" He said, "I'm going to earn it. I'm going to earn it. I'm going to earn it, every penny of it." Another thing that he said that I found very, very profound is, guess what? I have a responsibility to my team in order to make sure that we're not a circle win every single year. I don't think Kyler takes that approach. I really don't. Like I stated, if we see smaller quarterbacks succeed in this league, look at Russell Wilson, look at Baker Mayfield, look at Doug Flutie. Doug Flutie didn't have half the ability that Kyler Murray had. Yet he was able to lead the Buffalo Bills to the playoffs twice and did be a Pro Bowler. So we see your natural ability. It's like we just don't see you bring it all into one big, huge, just I want to see you bring it into a one big package and show us all that you can do, all of it. But instead, we get these flashes, and these eternal flames are just merely smoke screens. So between your work ethic, you lashing out at everybody because you don't do what you're supposed to do, and all of that other stuff, and you not being a culture changer where you are, I gotta label you a heel. Because in the great words of Exhibit, what's the difference between me and you? You talk a good game, but you don't do what you're supposed to do.
Mm.
BRF.
Mm. Yeah, I gotta go. Whew, man, Kyler. Think you gotta go. I think it's a heel for me too. Um, I mean, when you look at the rise early in his career, like in particularly that particularly that 20 that that 20 was it 2021 22 just
2021. That was the
yeah
year in which the Cardinals they were like 7-0 the first half of the season, and
yeah,
Kyler was the MVP favorite at that point.
right. And then the wheels fell off, and they made it to the playoffs, but the LA Rams just sent them out as quick as they made it. But yeah, just too many questions for me as far as like his attitude, his work ethic, just sheer will to want to be the best player he can be, and just as the face of a franchise, as the quarterback of the team, the face of a franchise, you have to be really leading by example. You have to be really that one out front, really, guiding the young guys around because you're one of the vets. And it's like, it's one of those things. It's one of those things where, as a player, as a quarterback, when we have to when we've had to question you as much as we have, as far as like what you do, outside of campuses, not well, outside of the facility, like being there for your teammates, just the encouragement, the leadership, like like you're the one that's been there, like it's got to be you, out on it's got to be you out on the front line as far as like being the leader that team deserves, and you haven't really done that at all. Um, and then yeah, like for me, I think for me the ultimate kind of yeah, it's the study clause. It's the study clause. Like as the face of a franchise, why are you sitting here being so worried about getting your next Call of Duty game in when you're the face of a franchise? And the Arizona Cardinals, who at one point was really on the come up, like was one of those teams that everybody was talking about. Like, okay, and watch out for this squad. If they get going early and they build some momentum, just watch out. But like now, it's just kind of like they're stuck in limbo, and it's really like it's really because of what do they do in with Kyler Murray in the offseason? Do we give him another go, or do we go ahead and just say good riddance from the standpoint of there hasn't been any franchise progress the entire time he's been there? And like I said, a lot of it's his fault. His work ethic, just feeling entitled. Just you can't be like that as the face of a franchise. So yeah, with Kyler, yeah, I'm gonna go heel for Kyler Murray.
All right, fellas, let's just try to hurry up with Babyface Hill and these last couple of subjects. This one, I think this is pretty unanimous as a babyface. Big Red, Andy Reid, babyface.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Considering, from 1999 to all the way now, 2025, 27 years as a head coach. Finally, I mean, 5 NFC championship appearances with the Philadelphia Eagles. Had some really good football teams, especially on the defensive side of the football with Jermaine Trotter, Hugh Douglas, Brian Dawkins, one of the best. We talk about Ed Reed, Troy Polamalu, Ryan Clark as far as hard hitting safeties. Look at Brian Dawkins. Go
Yes.
back to his early days with the Philadelphia Eagles. Um, what he did for Donovan McNabb. People forgot Donovan McNabb, who was drafted with the number 2 overall pick out of Syracuse. He was booed on draft day. And Donovan McNabb, had he won a Super Bowl, there would have been enough of an argument as far as with the Hall of Fame. Donovan, you can still make an argument for Hall of Fame. I don't think he may be in though, although it's kind of weird because you look at Phillip Rivers, 8 Pro Bowls. You may say he's a Hall of Famer, but Phillip Rivers does has consistency. He has better numbers. He has played in the NFL for 17 years, so that does kind of add to the favor. But what he did with Kansas City, helping turn around Alex Smith's career, even putting up great numbers, and then of course with Patrick Mahomes. The great thing about with Andy Reid is, unlike Belichick, he's had a great coaching tree. Sean McDermott, Todd Bowles, you know, John Harbaugh, you know, Doug Peterson, who won those two won Super Bowls as a head coach before Andy was able to get his one. Look, say whatever you want about Kansas City, the refs, Mahomes, Kelsey. If there's one reason why you want to root for Kansas City, look no further than Andy Reid. And oh, by the way, he's the epitome of giving people second chances. Michael Vick, obviously. Kareem Hunt. The Kansas City Chiefs decided to bring back Kareem Hunt. Had Kareem Hunt had not had that incident, champ, we may have had the discussion. Kansas City, could they have won that Super Bowl that first year with Mahomes at QB?
Yes, they could have won because he was just that good. Kareem Hunt was that dude, man.
Led the NFL in rushing his
Mm-hmm.
first year as a rookie. And when you look at Andy Reid, brilliant offensive mind, still to this day, the reason why, champ, I still believe Andy Reid has a case of making the GOAT conversation if he wants to. If he can win a couple more Super Bowls. Look, Andy Reid, pristine reputation. No, I mean, doesn't have Spygate, Deflategate, any of those types of controversies under his belt like Belichick. And unlike Belichick, he has evolved with the times. The knocks on Andy Reid were clock management issues, him winning the big one. That's no longer the case. He's no longer afraid anymore. And he's such a likable dude. As big fellows as y'all would love to go to a barbecue shack with Andy Reid, getting a good cheeseburger and some ribs and some fries and wash it down with a vanilla or chocolate shake. That's Andy Reid in a nutshell, man. He's relatable, especially with how the way he draws up plays, like in the Super Bowl when they beat the Philadelphia Eagles the first time. That play when Mahomes threw the touchdown pass to Kadarius Toney. You know what that play was called? Corn dog. Because Andy Reid, he loves himself some food. To me, he's kind of, he's not as, to me, he's kind of in some ways like Charles Barkley. He's relatable. He's the type of big fella, the big old teddy bear people like. He's relatable with food. He's relatable with a lot of great things. There is not a negative word to say about him as a human being, as a person, as a head coach. He's a player's type of coach. He's the type of person that you can have a conversation with. If you talk to Deshaun Jackson, LaShawn McCoy, others, not a negative word to say about him. And look at how he was coaching in Philadelphia compared to Chip Kelly. Look at all the negative things that Chip Kelly had to be heard and said about him. So when I look at Andy Reid, babyface.
Babyface, and you basically covered everything, especially his ability to give players a second act in their career. Remember, look, a lot of his players, his star player, the poster boy of tight ends, he got in trouble in college. Remember?
Travis Kelce in Cincinnati, yeah.
Yeah, he got in trouble.
Tyreek Hill, remember he
Yeah,
had that DV incident.
yeah, he got in trouble. Travis Kelce is the poster boy. Remember, he had his brother call him up. Hey man, you gonna act right? All right, we taking you in the fifth. Remember, Jason Kelsey called him up. He was like, hey man, call your brother up. You gonna act right? He's like, yeah, man, I'm not gonna mess up. All right, we gonna draft you. You better not mess up. So, hey, that just goes to show you the ability of you taking chances and investing in people. Not just him, like I said, the poster boy of that was Michael Vick. But you think about a lot of other guys. Think about Kareem Hunt. You think about Tyreek Hill. You think about a lot of other players that he took a risk on. Remember, he took a risk on Vince Young, although he had trouble
Tennessee,
in
and that was in
Tennessee.
large part
So,
because of with him and Jeff Fisher.
yeah, Jim and Jeff Fisher, but but yeah, basically you covered everything. It's called PSP. We call you the New Jersey Genius for a reason, brother. But yeah, man, Andy Reid is an undisputed babyface.
Yes, even the great Barack Obama thanked Jeffrey Lurie and the Eagles organization for giving Michael Vick a second chance because he knows what it's like for African Americans, black people to screw up and not get another opportunity. And Vic had the opportunity to clean up and resurrect his career and life.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Not to mention, man, get two $100 million contracts. It's rare you get one.
And also for Nike to bring him back.
Yes, indeed. Now you coaching, doing a hell of a job, man. I'm proud of Mike Vick, man. But big ups to Andy Reid for taking that chance, man, because could have gone either way, but it went the right way.
And also too, Andy Reid, people related. There were a lot of great things to say about him, and he was also going through his turbulent times with his sons, his children, and still he was able to overcome all of that.
Hmm.
So, BRF, is there anything you want to add?
No, man, y'all pretty much covered everything as far as Andy Reid. I mean, one of the most likable personalities we have in the NFL and sports period, and just there's nothing bad you can honestly really say about that guy unless you just want to be flat out picky and you want to just find something that's of his fault. But honestly, what bad can you say about Andy Reid? There's really nothing bad you can say about Andy Reid. Very much a babyface.
All right.